الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lessons in the Aqaid of Imam Nasafiyyah. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open for us the doors of understanding, and may Allah enliven our hearts with iman and taqwa, and get us our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam yawm al-qiyamah. Ameen ya rabbal alamin. So today, mashallah, is the first time that we have in our class in Masjid Abdul Razak since the beginning of this book. And inshallah, in this lesson, what I will do, I will just give a summary of what we have covered in so far. And I hope that those who have been following from the beginning, we are aware about the arguments that has been brought forth by the author. So let me start by beginning to speak about the introduction of Al-Imam Al-Taftazani. In the beginning, he speaks about the reality of things. The reality of things. If you can remember, Al-Imam Al-Nasafi, he began by saying Haqa'iqul Ashya' Thabita. Haqa'iqul Ashya' Thabitatun. The reality of things that are in existence. The reality of things that are in existence. It is something that exists in reality, not an imagination. We gave the example when we look at this table in front of us, when we look at this universe, we understand that it is in existence. Because so many of the philosophers they mention that whatever we see are imagination. So Al-Imam Nasafi is saying that whatever things that we see by our senses, these are things that are real. These are not any things that are imaginary. So this is sabita. The reality of things that it exists in reality. Tamam? And then he speaks about the causes of knowledge. How do we know what we know? In English, we call it epistemology. We call it epistemology. How do we know what we know? So he said that there are three ways. There are three reasons. Knowledge here, he speaks about knowledge based on conviction, yaqeen. How do we know what we know based on conviction, meaning 100% conviction? What are the causes of that knowledge? So that is why we are speaking about what? How many are there? Altogether there are three, correct? We have al-hawas al-salima, and then we have khabar rasul al-mu'ayyad bil-mu'jizat, and then we have al-aql. Al-hawas basically the senses. So the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of taste, the sense of touch. So this is a cause of knowledge that brings about conviction. So for example, when we touch something, when we touch fire, for example, we are convinced that it is hot. How do we have that conviction, that knowledge, that there is heat in fire, based on our senses? Likewise, when we look at this, room, we find that this room is lighted in presence of light, that we are able to see the things around us. So this is based on conviction. This is based on conviction, that there is a presence of light. So likewise, when it comes to taste, for example, we taste something that is that is cold, or something that is hot. This is knowledge that we attain, and this kind of knowledge is based on conviction. So this is what we speak about al-hawas. Al-hawas is the senses. This is one of the ways of attaining knowledge of conviction. So this is point number one. Number two, he spoke about khabar al-rasul al-mu'ayyad bil-mu'jizat, and this is very important that we have to study, to appreciate, because this goes back to speak about the truth of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if a non-Muslim asks you, how do you prove that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is indeed a true prophet, what do you say? If a non-Muslim comes to you and asks you this question, and this is possible, correct? There are many people who believe in the oneness of God, but they don't believe in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are people out there, they are agnostic. Agnostic meaning they believe that the God exists, but we do not know who is He. And we don't believe in prophets and messengers. So there are people who are like that. We call them agnostic. This is also we mentioned, correct, in the Muqaddimah. When Al-Imam Nasafiyyah speaks about Nasafiyyah. One of the schools of Nasafiyyah is agnostic, where they believe in the existence of the Creator, but they do not who is the Creator. So these people might come to you and say that why you Muslims believe in prophets and messengers? What is the evidence behind the truth of the message of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Here the author mentioned khabar Rasul al-mu'ayyad bil mu'jizat. So the message of prophets and messengers, it is equipped with what? It is equipped with miracles. So the miracles are evidences on the truth of the message in your prophets and messengers. So that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we see in the Quran, Allah spoke about, for example, Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Nabi Musa alayhi salam was sent to Fir'aun. So he told Fir'aun, Ana Rasulun min Rabbil Alameen. What did Fir'aun ask? Musa alayhi salam, when he came to Fir'aun and said that I am a messenger from Allah, from God, who created the heavens and the earth. What did Fir'aun say to him? He said, show me a sign. Show me a sign that you are indeed the messenger. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equipped any prophet and messengers with what? With miracles. So what is the miracle of Musa alayhi salam? The stick, correct? Because Fir'aun and his people, they were obsessed in sorcery. So they thought the sorcerers, they are the people of the highest stature, that they can turn sticks into snakes by illusion, not by reality but illusion. Nowadays the magicians they use illusion, correct? You saw something and it's moving, but actually it's not moving. It is illusion of the eyes. This is the sorcerers of the Fir'aun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Musa alayhi salam a stick that turned into a real snake. And the snake ate up all the sticks, and the sticks disappeared. So the sorcerers know this is not illusion. They know sorcery, this is not sorcery. This is something else. So because of this miracle that Allah equipped Musa alayhi salam, they come to the conviction that this is indeed the messenger of God. That's why the sorcerers believe. Say, Amanna bi Musa. Amanna bi Rabbi Musa wa Harun. Straight away they believe. Because they saw the evidences, and this is based on conviction. Al-Khabar Rasul al-Mu'ayyad bil Mu'jizah. Al-Mu'ayyad bil Mu'jizah. So Prophet and Messengers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with miracles. Likewise, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, when he came to the Bani Israel, what did he do? He brought the dead back to life. He brought the dead back to life. The people believe in Isa alayhi salam. Of course, some of them do not believe, but the Hawariyun, of course, they believe in the message of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. So likewise, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when people ask what is the truth of the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mashallah, and we can speak a lot of miracles. And the best miracles is the Quran that we are reading today. For example, the Quran spoke about the Big Bang. Correct? Just 40-50 years ago, any scientists they found out that there was a Big Bang, and that is the beginning of the universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned it in the Quran specifically. So how can a prophet who lived in the desert 1400 years ago without any technology to speak about the Big Bang? Now this is a miracle, correct? The Quran speaks about what? The Quran speaks about the formation of the womb. How from the zygote, the mixture of the male and the female sperm, and how it clings to the womb. This is al-alaq. That's what Allah mentioned in Surah Al-Alaq. Qul a'udhu Iqra bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq khalaqal insana min 'alaq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that He created human beings from al-alaq. The word alaq it is zygote that clings to the womb, because comes from the word al-laqa. Al-laqa is something that is cling, and even the word is a miracle. How can a person 1,400 years ago know that the zygote is something that clings to the womb? And in Surah Al-Mu'minun, for example, Allah speaks about what? How it formed into a human being, the stages. So this is a miracle from the miracles of the Quran. And we can speak many miracles of the Quran, correct? Until today, there are many miracles, and there are many miracles that are to be discovered that have not yet been discovered. So in the Quran, Allah speaks about the sun. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍ لَهَا. The sun, it moves within its own axis. Nobody knows last time. The sun moves, but now today people knew that actually the sun is not stationary. the sun is moving. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. We are constantly expanding the universe. Today they found what you call it, that actually the universe is expanding. So these are miracles of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Quran is a miracle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, the Prophet spoke about the splitting of the moon. Quran also speaks about the splitting of the moon. So the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is aided with miracles. So it brings about what? Conviction. Correct? This is the thing. The message that comes together with miracles, it brings what is the conclusion? The conclusion is it is based on yaqeen. It is an information based on conviction. So this is point number 2. Point number 3, we spoke about the intellect. We spoke about the intellect. So there are certain things that we do not see, but we can understand based on conviction. We can understand based on we can understand based on conviction. So for example, if we see smoke we know there is a fire. If we see smoke we know there is a fire, even though we do not see any fire. We saw from far for example any smoke. We know there is a fire. We heard a knocking on the door. We know someone is behind. We know someone is behind the door. Mathematical solutions. This is also based on the intellect. If we have 5 apples, plus 5 apples, we have 10. So this is based on what? Based on conviction. So this is based on the intellect. So Al-Imam Nasafiyyah began by speaking about how we are able to attain any conviction. What type of knowledge that brings about? That brings about conviction. And then after that he mentioned that knowledge is divided into 2 parts. Correct or not? He said that knowledge, we have the 2 parts of knowledge. We have knowledge that is daruri and knowledge that is nadari. So there are certain knowledge that you understand easily without any ponderance. So this is any knowledge daruri. So we gave the example we say the sky is on top of me and the world, the earth is below me. This is daruri. When we open our eyes we see the things around us and we know about its existence, this is daruri. Basically it is knowledge that does not require any ponderance. And then there is another type of knowledge that is nadari, and knowledge that is nadari is knowledge that require ponderance. So he gave the example of what? The contingency of the universe, and this is basically where we are. The contingency of the universe. We look at this universe, we look at the earth, we look at the sun, we look at the sky, and we come to the conclusion that it is contingent. What is the meaning of contingent? Meaning, it has a beginning. This is knowledge nadari. It requires what? It requires any ponderance. It requires any confidence. That's why in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He say, Inna fi khalqi samawati wal ard wa ikhtilafi al-layli wal nahar la ayatin li ulil albab. Yani, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the coming of the night and the day, these are signs for those who possess intelligence. الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Yani they have tafakkur on the skies and the earth. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. This is contingent, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this. Right? When we look at the universe, and when we look at human beings, when we look at the sun, and when we look at the moon, we understand that this has a beginning. We understand that it has a beginning. Why? How do we understand that it has a beginning? Because it is subjected to change. It is subjected to change, and everything that is subjected to change has a beginning. It's contingent. So this basically what Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is saying. After he mentioned that knowledge that is daruri and that is nadari, and then he said that the universe and all of the contents is muhdath. Yani muhdath, meaning it is created from non-existence into existence. It has a beginning. It has a beginning. And then he goes on to speak about what is the evidence that the universe has a beginning. So he mentioned that the universe is made up of two parts. We have Jawhar and Arab. So this is where we are in our last lesson. So he mentioned that the universe, the substances that are in existence in this universe, they are made up of how many parts? They are made up of two parts. So we have Jawhar and we have Arab. So in my last lesson, I gave this example. I do not know if you have any question, then you can ask based on the last lesson. Last lesson, I gave an example of a bottle. We have to understand the difference between Ain, Jism, Jawhar and Arab. 4 things. So we have point number 1, Al-A'yan. This is what Imam Nasafi said. And if you look, he began by speaking about Al-A'yan. Al-A'yan, and yes, what we mentioned, is a plural of Ain. It is a substance, correct or not? Al-Ain. Al-Ain is a substance. So below a substance, you have Jawhar and you have Jism. Below substance, you have Jawhar and you have Jism. So the difference between Jawhar and Jism, a body, is made up of Jawhar. A body is made up of Jawhar. And it is exactly what we study in chemistry, in science. When we look at this bottle, we understand that this bottle is made up of what? Atoms and molecules. Correct or not? What is the smallest substance? The atoms. So this bottle is made up of millions of atoms. So when it is made up of parts, it is Jism. So we say this is a Jism. Whereas the atom that is made up of is Jawhar. So the difference between Jawhar and Jism is that Jism is made up of Jawhar. Clear, inshallah? So this is the difference between something that is compounded and something that is not compounded. Clear, inshallah? What is meaning when we say something that is compounded? Is this compounded? This is compounded, correct? Compounded meaning what? Made up of parts. So anything that is made up of parts is Jism. In Malay also we use the word Jism, but in Malay we say Jism is badan, Jisim. Jisim yang sihat, maksudnya. It only speaks about the human body, but in Arabic and in what we call it in terminology and in Aqeedah, when the ulama they speak about Jism and Ajsam, what they mean is compounded body, substance. So this is any jism. Where is the jawhar? Where is any jawhar? The jawhar any is the atoms. This is any the difference any between jawhar and jism. So one any is compounded, the other one any is not any compounded. But both any is under ayn. Both any is under what? Is under al-ayn, substance. So whether we speak any about jism or jawhar, it is a substance. And we already know what is the meaning any of the substance. Substance any is something any that stand on its own. Al-ayn, it is something any that stand any on its own. Meaning it is not any in need any of an entity, another entity. So we gave any the example any this bottle. Yani this bottle. If I put any this bottle any here, I cannot any put any another bottle in its place. Correct or not? Because this bottle any has already any taken up any the space. Tamam? The bottle any has already taken up any the space. So we say it stand on its own. Meaning I cannot put something else in its place. I cannot put something else. Correct or not? So this is the nature of substance. And then we spoke about the accident. We spoke any about what? The accident. So where is the accident? And if you look at this bottle, where is the accident? This bottle any is a substance, correct or not? Where is any the accident? The accident any is the color. So now, can you remove any the color from the bottle? Color alone? No, cannot, correct or not? Because color is an accident, it subsists within the entity. It subsists any within the entity. So it does not stand on its own. This is the difference. So when we say substances and it stand on its own, meaning it take up space. You cannot put something else in its place. But when it comes into color, if you remove any color, it becomes nothingness. Because why? Color is in need of what? An entity to subsist. It cannot subsist on its own. So I hope it is clear, inshallah. No problem, huh? I do not know, maybe some of you are wondering, for example, why are we studying this? Is there anyone here? Like wondering, like how come when we are? If you remember last time when we are in our book Nasafiyyah, we also mentioned about this. Why do our ulama speak any about this? So before I continue and I speak lengthily any about this topic, I do not want anyone to what you call it to be lost basically. So the question maybe some of you, Allahu A'lam, or people who are listening online, they might be wondering why is this any important? Is this any important to study about this? To study about substances and accident is very, very important. Why is it important? Because this is one of the way that we establish the evidence that the universe is contingent. Because you see, there are people even until today, they believe that the universe is eternal. They believe the world that we see is pre-eternal, has no beginning. They are basically, most of them are atheists. They do not believe in a beginning of the universe. They believe that the universe is pre-eternal. The Greeks last time, this is what they believe. They believe that the universe has no beginning. Can you imagine? So that is why our scholars speak about this. That's why our scholars speak about this. And there are people who does not believe in the existence of God. So if you are able to prove that the universe has a beginning, meaning what? Meaning there is a God that brings it into existence. Because anything that has a beginning cannot bring itself into existence from non-existence. So that is why it is important for us to understand the nature of these creations. For us to come to the conclusion that it is contingent. And if it is contingent, it is in need of what? It is in need of an originator, the creator. This is how basically we establish the evidence behind the existence of God. So this is where Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is going to. Al-Imam Tatazani is speaking about what you call it, so many of these things. So I hope it is clear, inshallah. So we say that this is jism, and then the smallest part of it is jawhar. In scientific term, we call it, like in science, we call it atom. we call it any atom. So jawhar is the atom, and then jism is the compounded what you call it, matter. In science we call it matter, correct? We call it the matter. So this is basically what we are saying in our last lesson. So now inshallah we go back to our book. There are certain things, of course I think it is difficult what you call it to understand, but actually many of the things are not really important. Some of the things are not really important. So we will go back to where we stopped. So we were speaking about the meaning of substance, because Al-Imam Nasafiyyah said وَهُوَ الْجِسْمُ, and then he said وَعِنْدَ الْبَعْضِ لَبُدَّ مِنْ ثَلَاثَةِ أَجْزَاءٍ. So last week we spoke about a substance. Many of the scholars mentioned that it must have three components. When we say, for example, jism is something that is made out of parts, what is the minimum number of parts? They have some differences. Some say minimum 2 parts, otherwise it is not compounded. Minimum there must be how many? 2 parts. Some scholars mention 3 parts, some scholars mention 8 parts, in order for us to say it's a body. That's all. So these differences is what you call it, not really important. Not really important. Like maybe the scholars in chemistry, maybe they differ. In order for you to define any matter, what is the definition? Maybe we can find some differences amongst the chemists, that whether it is made up of how many atoms and how many molecules, in order for us to say that it is a matter or it is a substance. Now, so today we go to where he mentioned أو غير مركب. So a substance is either compounded or not compounded. So the substance that is not compounded is called jawhar. Like the jawhar, and we say like the atom. All of you got this, inshallah? So let us go back into our translation. Let me see. Yes? Do you think I think this is better, right? This translation is better, right? Okay, we will go back into the translation by Al-Degar. Let us go back to the translation of Al-Degar. I posted in the WhatsApp group, correct now? Usually I have the PDF on screen easy. Today is the first time we are on site. That's a good thing if we have online. Easy to follow, is it? Easier to follow, right? Okay, we look at the Al-Degar in translation. We are at page 39. Hold on, substance is either a thing compounded. Can you see? Page 30, not 39. Page 30. According to the philosophers, the meaning of the substance of a thing is in its essence is being independent of the locus in which it subsists. This, what you call it, the thing about the philosophers, they have a unique way of understanding in substances. They have a unique way of understanding any substances. They take into consideration imagination. That you can imagine something, and it also can be considered to be a substance. So this is the weird thing about the understanding of the philosophers. But of course our scholars are not agreeable with what they are saying. So we say that a substance is something that stands on its own. The philosophers they do not agree. They say not necessary. This is the thing. But of course what they are saying is not important. We say, as what I mentioned earlier, this is a substance, When we say a substance and it stands on its own, and meaning I cannot put another substance in its place. So, but if a person and he comes and he say that not necessary, it's possible, then show us. But they believe any based on imagination. Now this is what you call it, something which is not even any scientific, not even any scientific. So this is basically some of the arguments that he mentioned before that. So maybe today we will read any from the part where he says is either a thing compounded or of two or more parts. Now can you read?
Is either a thing compounded of two or more parts according to us. That is a body jism. Some say that there must be three parts so that the three dimensions, length, breadth and depth may be realized.
Okay, this one we have read already. We have read this already. These are some of the differences in determining what is the definition of the substance. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, you read below part. Or not compounded like the atom.
Or not compounded by the atom, jawhar. That is the substance which is not divisible, neither actually, nor in fancy, nor by supposition.
Okay, so this is the difference between jism and jawhar. Jism and jawhar. So jism is compounded, jawhar is not compounded. Jism is compounded, jawhar is not compounded. Clear, inshallah? So it is not any based on that we suppose it is like that, but this is based on reality. This is based on reality, not imagination. Now continue.
Which is the part that is not further divided.
Which is the part that is not further divided. So now this is the meaning of jawhar. So we have to pay attention here. Now when he speaks about what is the meaning of jawhar then? Now when we look at this bottle, for example, we say this is jism, correct or not? So what is the meaning of jawhar? We say jawhar is the smallest particle, the smallest atom that cannot be divided. That cannot be divided. So this is the meaning of jawhar. Tamam? Continue.
He did not say it is the atom, but like the atom, guarding against introducing a restriction. For that which is not compounded is not confined according to reason to the atom, meaning the indivisible part.
Now, basically, he is just saying that it is the smallest particle. It is the smallest particle that you cannot divide. So, meaning the smallest particle of the substance, where the substance is made up of, where you cannot make any more division. That is the meaning of jawhar. Continue.
Since it would have been necessary to abolish primary matter, form, intelligences, and the absolute souls, in order to complete the restriction of the indivisibles to the atom.
Okay, now again he speaks about the difference between the Muslims and the philosophers. So let me just give a summary of this difference. Al-Imam Nasafiyyah, he mentioned that something that is not compounded is called jawhar. Something that is not compounded is called jawhar. So Al-Imam Taftazani further explained that it is something that cannot be divided. So in our words, usually we say it is an atom, correct or not? So basically we are saying it is the atom. So how does this substance come into being or come in this existence? We say it is made up of what? Made up of atoms. So this is what we study this is what we study in science. The philosophers, they believe in something else. Now this is the ajib of the philosophers. Their belief is not based on that this is made up of that we have small atoms and molecules that form this bottle. They do not believe that. But they believe that this bottle itself, its existence is by its shape and its size. Its existence and its by any shape and its size. So it is not made up any of parts. It is not made up any of parts. This is the difference between the philosophers and the scholars of Kalam. So last time the philosophers, this is what they believe. When they speak about the mountains, for example, when they speak about human beings, they see the mountains as a whole. They see any human beings as a whole. So they do not speak about what you call it, the elements and the parts of substances. But then they say that but now you can break it into parts. Yani after it has formed into a substance, then after that you can break it into parts. So this is what the philosophers say. So that is why they believe that the substances are pre-eternal. All any substances are pre-eternal. Why? Because it is not made up any of parts. Its existence it exists as a whole with its shape and its size. So a simple example when they speak about the universe for example, they do not see the universe made up of parts. They see the universe as a whole. As a whole, and it is pre-eternal. So the scholars of Kalam mention this is impossible. How can that be? Every single substance that is in existence, it is made up of parts. So this is the thing that the author began to speak about these differences. So again, to me, these differences are not really important, because nowadays when we study science, easy we can understand this. But last time it is different. Our scholars last time they try to explain. The philosophers are saying this, but they are saying that is impossible, because we are witnessing substances that we can break them into parts, and they are made up of parts. Like today when we study chemistry and physics, we understand, for example, water H2O, correct? When we look at water, there is hydrogen and there is oxygen. So these atoms form up water. This oxygen form up water. So our belief in Islam, it does not contradict science. But the philosophers last time, the Greek philosophers especially, they do not believe that the water is made up of parts. Can you believe? Can you imagine? They do not believe that water is made up of parts. So here the author is trying to inform us that what the philosophers are saying is wrong. And then he brought evidences. So if you look at the whole page, it's about the evidences of the existence of the atom. Of the existence of the atom. So do not be afraid when you read this, because what you call it is just an extra explanation. Tamam? Okay, continue.
According to the philosophers, there is no such thing as the pure...
Wait, hold on. Wait, I have to get this first. Because I unintentionally roll up the page. Just now we are at page... Now we are at page 31, right? According to the philosophers. Okay, continue.
According to the philosophers, there is no such thing as the pure atom, that is the indivisible atom. As for the compounding together of the body, they say that it is composed of primary matter, al-hayuni, and form.
Now, this is basically what I'm saying just now. They do not believe that substances are made up of atoms, but it is made up of forms and shape, of the forms and the shape. Now, continue.
The best proof for establishing the indivisible part is that were a real sphere to be placed on a real plane, it would make a contact at one indivisible point only. Since if it should make a contact with it at 2 points, there would actually be on the sphere a line. So it would not be a real sphere on a real plane.
Okay, now this is only the first evidence to say that the indivisible atom is in existence, is part of a substance. So he gave the example, if you have a sphere, a ball, if you have a sphere and you have a flat surface, a sphere and a flat surface. If you put the sphere on this flat surface, only one point of the sphere we have contact on the surface, correct or not? So only one point of the sphere will have any contact. So this is the evidence of the smallest part of the sphere. So there is what you call it, this smallest element or smallest part of the sphere, and that is what is in contact with the surface. So this is the evidence number one, to say that the sphere is made up of this small element, that is the atom. Continue.
The most noted proof of the pure atom, according to the early theologians have two aspects. The first is that if every substance were infinitely divisible, the mustard seed would not be smaller than the mountain, since each is made up of infinite parts. But hugeness and smallness consist only in multiplicity and paucity of parts.
Okay, so the second evidence about this indivisible element, Jawharul Farq, pertaining to the smallest atom, the existence of the smallest atom, he gave the example of the difference between a mustard seed and the mountain. The mustard seed and the mountain. So if you look at the mustard seed, it is much smaller than the mountain. If you look at the mountain, it consists of many parts. It consists of many parts. If we say that there is no atom in these substances, then there is no difference between the mustard seed and the mountain, because the philosophers they believe that there is no end. There is no end to the parts of the substance. The philosophers they are saying there is no end to the parts of a particular substance. So our scholars they are saying that is impossible. That is impossible, because the difference of a mountain, something that is big and something that is small, it all goes back to the quantity of the atoms. It all goes back to the quantity of the atoms. So if we say that the atoms are not in existence, that you cannot break up into what you call it, the smaller parts, as what the philosophers are saying, and they will be impossible because they are also saying that all these substances are pre-eternal, meaning it is never ending. If you break it up, it is never ending. There is no such thing as the smallest substance. So let me put this again about what the philosophers believe. The philosophers they do not believe in atoms. Point number one, they do not believe in atoms, and they believe that substances are pre-eternal. This is the problem. So they do not believe in the existence of atoms, and they do not believe in the contingency of substances. They believe that substances are pre-eternal. Meaning what? Meaning if you break any substances, you cannot find the smallest substance. Although this sound like what you call it, something that is that do not make sense, but this is what basically they believe. So here our ulama mention that is impossible. That is impossible. So when you look at the mountain is made up of parts, just like the mustard seed also made up of parts. But the difference between the mountains and the mustard seed is the number of parts, the quantity. This is what he mentioned. It is the quantity. So it means when you have quantity, meaning what? You have the smallest part, correct or not? Whenever you have the quantity, meaning you have the smallest part, and this is the evidence to show that the smallest part is in existence. The atom is in existence. I hope it is clear, inshallah. Is there any questions so far? So again, basically what the author is trying to say is to establish that they are atoms. Clear, inshallah? Why Al-Imam Taftazani, Imam Nasafiyyah goes all the way to speak about this? Why? Because of the philosophers. If not because of the philosophers, they will not speak about establishing the evidences that atoms exist. But today, I don't think any people will have problems in understanding this. Correct? Today, even atheists, you tell them what you call it, this bottle, this water is made up of atoms, and everybody will believe. Correct? Everybody study today. Today, they use any microscope to look at substances, and they are able to find the smallest particle. The smallest particle. So khalas, we don't have any problem. But not any last time. So some of these arguments is a very long, previous argument. We are speaking about the Greek philosophers. The Greek philosophers 3,000 years ago. So they have this mindset, that when they look at the universe, they say the universe is qadim. They say the universe has no beginning, pre-eternal. It's not created. It has always been existing. So there's no such thing that you can break them into atoms, because it is always existing. So this is the ajib. So clear, inshallah. So this is maybe this is the time that we encounter such ideology. But I think some people have this understanding nowadays. Some people nowadays maybe they believe the same thing. They believe that the universe is pre-eternal. Some atheists might, correct? When you speak to atheists, sometimes you have different type of atheists nowadays. I used to speak to an atheist who believed that the universe has a beginning. He said that the universe has a beginning. They study the Big Bang, for example. They say yes, the universe has a beginning. But they have the problem to accept what? That since the universe has a beginning, there must be a creator. So they got jammed. They say not necessary. Not necessary. They say how come not necessary? It's just like saying this bottle it came out of nothing. Nobody can accept this, correct? But people do not want to believe. We read a bit more than we stop. Actually, I do not want to read this. Actually, I wanted to skip. You get me? Because I'm afraid that people get confused. At the end of the day, people get confused. I do not know. And then it's not really important. Seriously. Because the important things are coming. The important things are coming. The important things are about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So after he speak about the contingency of the universe, he speak about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Clear? So this is the flow. He's going to speak he's going to tell you that the universe has a beginning, and he has a creator, and that creator is Allah, and Allah has attributes, and these are the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are going into that direction, but we have to be patient to see so many of these arguments, because of the philosophers, and he do a lot of things in the past, so he rebutted the philosophers. Okay, just continue, just again.
But hugeness and smallness consist only in the multiplicity and paucity of parts.
Yes, meaning there is parts, correct? Something that is big and something that is small. What is the difference? Okay, now you look at this. The cup is smaller than the bottle, correct? What is the difference? It means what? It means that the parts are more. Something that is huge has more parts, correct? Than something that is small. That itself is an evidence that atoms are in existence. Continue.
But that fact is only conceivable in the finite. The second proof is that the combination, al-ijtima' of the parts of the body.
Wait, hold on. The best proof, the most noted early theologians, two aspects. The first, okay, continue.
The second proof is that the combination of the parts of the body into a whole is not due to its own essence. For were that the case, the body would not be capable of being separated into parts. It is because of this that Allah has the power to create in that body the possibility of being separated into parts which cannot be further divided.
Now this is the third thing he mentioned. What do you call it? When we have any substance, we have any the parts of the we have any the parts any of the substance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the ability to remove any those parts any from the substance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the ability to remove the parts any from the substance. So is it impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove the smallest part any of that substance? It is not impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created human beings. Any meaning what? The whole human being and is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So human beings and are made of parts, correct? Our body and is made of cells and atoms also. If you ask, for example, what is the smallest part any of our body that you cannot divide? It is atom. Same thing. It is any the atom. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the ability to remove a particular body from all of its parts. It is not any from the impossibilities, but it is from any the possibility. Now, continue.
Now, with reference to this ultimate part, the indivisibility of which is under discussion, if it is possible for it to be further separated into parts, it follows that the power of Allah we have to bring it about in order to eliminate the assumption that Allah is powerless. But if it is impossible for it to be further separated, then the contention as to the existence of an absolute atom is established.
Now, basically, he's saying it is not any impossible. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can break up any substances into the various parts and also the smallest any part, because everything is within the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
All of these proofs are weak. The first is weak because it only points to the existence of the geometrical point, and that does not necessitate the existence of the indivisible part.
Now, the first is about the sphere. The sphere, what you call it, when you have a sphere and a flat table, that only one part of the sphere will touch the small table. So it shows that you can have the contact of the smallest part of the sphere. Continue.
For the fact that the geometrical point is said to have position does not mean that it occupies place, and consequently it does not mean that the indivisibility of the place follows from the indivisibility of the geometrical point. The second and third are weak because the philosophers do not say that the body is actually composed of parts that are infinite, but they say that the body admits of an infinite number of divisions, and that there is no combination of the parts in it at all. Greatness and smallness are only according to the quantity which subsists in a body, and it is possible for the parts to be separated to infinity.
Now this what you call it viewpoint of the philosophers, and it is a bit confusing, and because they are saying that although bodies are not made of parts, but we can break up the bodies after its formation into parts. But initially it is not made up of parts. It came out as a form. It came up as a form, not by parts. But you can break up the body into parts. Now,
and it is possible for the parts to be separated to infinity. So the pure atom is not to be postulated. The proofs for denying this are also somewhat weak. For this reason, Al-Imam Al-Razi inclined to be non-committal on the subject.
Now, basically, these arguments to establish the existence of the atom, according to the author, these arguments are weak. But again, today we are saying that there is no issue in establishing any atoms, because today we witness by our own eyes. These are all arguments. When our past scholars they speak about the sphere, when they speak about what you call it, the quantity, the difference between the mountain and the mustard seed, and about the quantity, since we have quantities, it shows that we have parts. It is made up of parts. But at the end of the day, today we say that the existence of the atoms is something that we easy for us to understand. Then khalas. This is the lesson today. At the end of the day, what you call it, even though the author mentioned that these arguments are not that strong, but what you call it, it is something that can be accepted and something that can be understood. So there is no issue in understanding these things. So inshallah we will stop here, unless if anyone has any question. So what do you think? Easy? What's that? So as what I mentioned, nowadays it is not really difficult to understand this. If a person asks you, for example, do you believe in atoms? You get me? It's different. Like if a person 1,000 years ago asks you, do you believe in atoms? You look at a particular substance. Do you believe that there is like the smallest particle in the substance? Because you see, the problem is we do not know for sure, because we have not witnessed it. Whether this particular substance is a whole or it is made of parts, we do not know. But nowadays, with technology, people are saying that you can see atoms, correct? No? Can you see atoms? Now they can see cells. The smallest particle of a substance can be witnessed. So this is based on yaqeen, because this is based on observation. Correct or not? So this is the strongest argument. The strongest argument is based on witnessing. So at the end of the day, the conclusion that we have come today is that whatever we see in this universe, it is made of atoms. So for example, water is made up of atoms, substance is made up of atoms, this table also is made up this table is also made up of atoms. So you have the smallest part in every substance. This is basically what the author is trying to say. Because when we understand this, then we will understand that it is contingent. That this atoms is contingent. Why is this atom contingent? Maybe I just say it out now. Why we say this atom is contingent? Because there is an accident to it. Every atom has an accident. Meaning that there is a size, correct? Every atom, even though it is small, but there is a size. Size is accident. And accident is contingent. Because accident does not stand on its own. Accident is contingent. So if accident is contingent, the substance is contingent. Clear, inshallah? So this is how we are able to understand that the universe is contingent. Because the universe is made up of atoms and molecules. So if the atom is contingent, meaning the universe is contingent. So that is why our scholars goes into the smallest particle. Correct or not? If you are able to understand atoms, we are able to give what can understand everything. Because human beings also made of atoms. What else? Even the air is made of atoms, correct? No? This one is made of atoms, and wood is made of atoms. This masjid is made up of atoms, steel, and all these things. So that is why they go back into the atoms. So here he is trying to establish the existence of these atoms. That if you break any substances, you will get the smallest. You will get the smallest. But the philosophers deny this. That's why we have all these arguments going on, because the philosophers they do not believe in the indivisible atom, because they claim that everything is pre-eternal. Wallahu a'lam bis-shawab. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin.